Once I knew for sure I was going to be a part of the Fender Vintera 3 mid-60s Jaguar launch, I knew you guys in the comments section were going to be requesting the same thing over and over and over again, and sure enough, you did. You wanted to see a comparison between this new one and a Jaguar that I've had for about a year at this point, a 2025 Fender Jaguar that was made in Japan. So that's what we're going to be doing today. This is not going to be a sound comparison style video because this guitar is not stock. On the very first string change, I pulled out the OEM pickups and I threw in a set of Lawlers. And on top of that, this guitar has a mastery bridge and a mastery vibrato. So this is really about evaluating the guitars as a platform, providing you with some measurements that a lot of people look for with these instruments, talking about the compatibility for aftermarket parts, especially the bridge. People are curious about those, pricing, overall quality out of the box between the two of them, and overall value. These are all things that I want to hit on today, and I think that the results might surprise you because they really surprised me when I had both these guitars in my hands. We'll start by taking some neck measurements with my digital calipers. Before I did the demo of this guitar, I already measured the thickness at the 1st and the 12th fret on the Vintera 3. It's 0.85 at the 1st fret, 0.97 at the 12th fret. The nut width on this guitar is 42.2 millimeters or 1.66 if you're looking at things from an imperial scale. Now for the Japanese-made traditional 60s. At the 1st fret, it is 0.86 or 22.05 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, 0.89 or 22.64 millimeters. 39.7, 156. So it's a much narrower nut. Ironically, the traditional 60s takes a little bit more of a modern approach to the neck profile. Sure, at the 1st fret, can sound like it's a little bit chunky at 0.87, and compared to something like the Fender Modern C, yeah, it's a little bit bigger than that, but it's not a night and day difference. It has to do with two things. Number one, the nut width. At the 1st fret, everything feels a little bit tighter because it's narrower at the nut. But number two is the neck shape. These are listed as having U-shaped necks, and if you've never played a Japanese-made Fender guitar with a U-shaped neck and you only have experience with American guitars that have a U-shaped neck or Mexican reissues that have a U-shaped neck, you might be a little bit thrown off guard when you play one of these because it's nothing like what you're going to find on a 52 reissue, a no-caster, or a Vintera 50 style model. This one just feels like a C with a little bit more shoulder on it, nothing that's super chunky in your hands. But the other thing that really differentiates the playing experience between the traditional 60s and the Vintera 3 or an American Vintage 65 reissue Jaguar is the fact that, yes, 0.87 at the 1st fret, but at the 12th, it's only 0.89. If those numbers don't mean anything to you, basically what that translates to is it's almost an even neck profile. There's not much taper whatsoever. So as you progress upwards towards the body itself playing on the guitar, the neck isn't getting substantially bigger. The Vintera 3, on the other hand, is going to feel much more familiar if you're used to Fender guitars that are available in the American market. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a classic vibe or an American vintage or just a completely different model, because this follows the traditional Fender formula of, a 42 millimeter nut width. That's pretty standard on a lot of these vintage reissues. Doesn't matter what the line is or where they're made. And then the neck taper. To me, I prefer this. I greatly prefer this because I'm somebody that likes to play rhythm guitar 99.9% of the time, and having this extra thickness as I go up the neck, it lets me dig in a little bit more. It's more to hold on to, and I just love it. It's one of those things where I'm used to it, and me personally, it's my own preference. Now let's talk about bridge replacements and what's going to fit and what's not going to fit out of the box. These are the factory thimbles on the Japanese guitar. It came with the vintage bridge, so obviously that one's going to fit. This is the Offset Guitars UK bridge. Drops in perfectly. Stay trim, right here. Same thing. Going to drop in perfectly, give you a nice rocking action as well. And obviously the one I had equipped on it, the Mastery bridge, is also a perfect fit. The Vintera 3 also came with the vintage bridge, but we also have to take into consideration the fact that it has a mute installed. Vintage bridge works just fine. Stay trim. Drops right in, no issues. The Offset Guitars UK bridge, no problem there. When we get to the Mastery, it's not going to fit. And it's not about the thimble size. It's about the actual mute itself. You could fit a mastery into one of these if you reamed out these holes that lead into the actual thimbles on the actual mute itself. You could do it that way. I've seen it done in the past. Wouldn't be too big of a problem, but out of the box, if you wanted to use the mute, you'd have to make modifications for the mastery to work. Now let's check out what's under the pickguard, because there's a few things I want to talk about here. First thing that jumps out to me, cloth wiring. I love that. That's high quality stuff. One question a lot of people had was, were they vintage done as far as the route goes? And as you can see, they're not. So normally on a vintage style Fender Jaguar, you would have a little circular hole where you would feed all the wires through to get to the switches. You don't have that on this guitar. It's a bit more akin to a swimming pool route, although, you know, obviously we do have our big slab of wood here in the middle between the two pickups. The electrical components themselves, though, are all vintage correct. 1 meg, 1 meg. Got your proper cap right there. You got your little resistor right there on that lug. Same thing goes for the rhythm circuit in terms of the quality of the electronics. Really, really high quality stuff. And obviously it came routed from the factory for the mute. Now let's check out the Japanese model, because there's a few differences I remember off the top of my head. Number one here, you'll see a cloth wire or two. Those are coming from the set of ladders that I installed. From the factory, they're plastic. However, what I was mentioning earlier about the access here, this is vintage correct. This is what's supposed to be there on a vintage style Fender Jaguar, and it feeds in through here. But with that being said, actual components, the switches are really good. The rest of the electrical components are not up to the same quality as the Vintera 3. When we check out the lead control panel, same sort of thing going on here. We still got our 1 meg CTS pots, which is really good, a quality switchcraft jack. However, again, when it comes to the actual other components, not up to the same standard that the Vintera 3 has. Completely different rhythm circuit assembly on the Japanese model. The switches are the same, but the overall quality of the components, the Vintera 3 absolutely beats it. And the last thing I gotta point out, you'll notice this isn't routed for mute. This isn't a very simple DIY thing for the majority of guitar players if you wanted to install this. It's not a nightmare to do, and most techs will be able to do this for you fairly easily. However, it's something that if you're just wanting to add it or you want it from the factory with it, it's going to add a bit to the cost, so take that into consideration. Last two things I want to mention while we have the bodies here. The Mastery vibrato is equipped right now, but the vibrato that came standard on this guitar is very similar to the one that came on the Vintera 3. And in order to adjust the truss rod on both of the guitars, you're going to have to pull the neck. There's one thing I didn't address while I had these two guitars on the bench that I know is really important to a lot of players and to myself to a certain extent, and that is the weight. This guitar, the traditional 60s, this particular trim of it, has a basswood body. It weighs 7 pounds, 9 ounces, and that is not a fluke. There are a lot of these guitars around this sort of weight, and some of them that are even less. I've had some of these models, albeit in different sorts of trims, but the same sort of, guts and the same body wood, just a hair over 7 pounds. The older body, Vintera 3, 8 pounds, 10 ounces. When I was looking at the weights when these were initially released to see what the kind of range was going to be, it was typical for what I would expect from something from an American vintage style reissue. Low 8 pounds all the way up to a little bit over 9 pounds. If weight is of the utmost importance to you and you just need a lighter guitar for one reason or another, the Japanese guitars might be a great option. And it's also not exclusive to the ones that are made of basswood. Some of the store runs that are made of alder, same thing. I've had several of those that weigh under 8 pounds. I've gone over pretty much everything spec and feel wise that I wanted to, and that leads me to the value, the price, and which one I would recommend depending on what kind of player you are and what you want out of a guitar. I said at the end of last year, this is my favorite guitar I got out of the entire year. I stand by that. However, there was one thing about it that kind of didn't tick all the Jaguar boxes for me, and it has to do so much with the neck itself. I love the fact that it's light, but at the end of the day here, when I knew that this guitar was getting announced, and this was before I had agreed to do anything with Fender for the launch day, I found a place that allowed me to put in a pre-order because I had been so impressed with the other Vintera 2s that I had played, the road-worn versions and just the regular Vintera 2s, that I thought it's going to be worth a chance. And given the upgrades too, this is something else, and we saw this on the bench, the quality of the electronics is very similar. At the beginning of the video I showed you I switched out these pickups the very first string change because I didn't think they were that great. I thought they were adequate, but I knew that I wanted something a little bit better because I love pretty much everything else about the guitar. The Vintera 3, on the other hand, better overall quality of components, and I like those pickups substantially more. I'm not even considering swapping anything on this guitar in the near future. Feel is a huge thing. I recognize also aesthetics are a huge thing. And for a lot of people, they want custom colors. And you have to remember one thing. This is Fender's first return back into custom color Jaguars in quite some time from standard production models. So having Sherwood Green and having Shell Pink available is great. In Japan, on the used market, and with all the store runs that are continually being made, there's just more options available to you, and that's going to play a role for some people as well. At the end of the day, to me, though, is one guitar better than the other guitar? I'll put it to you like this. Pricing. One of these guitars right now, even if you just paid regular Japanese retail and the shipping, factor in 15% that you're going to have to pay on the tariff, right? On top of all that, because the tariff hits both the shipping and the actual cost of the item. It's going to cost you around $1,500 or so. These guitars are $1,350. Both of them come with gig bags, and I know a lot of people weren't happy that these didn't come with hard shell cases, the Vintera 3s, while I was sitting here thinking, wow, this gig bag is substantially better than the basically paper that covers this guitar, because the gig bag that comes with the Japanese models is to me not usable. It's not something I would ever feel confident taking out to a gig, and I have never taken out to a gig. I use other cases from other guitars or aftermarket higher-end gig bags for that sort of thing. It's just, I don't see the value, especially if you're looking at things that are available in the United States of America on resale. I see a lot of these store models costing $2,200 to $2,500. And that's insane to me. But even more so now, because this is $1,350, I wouldn't even say that there's a $200 or $300 difference. I think it's down to preference. If the prices are equal, I could understand either decision. But when I see some of these listings from some of these shops, man, and the prices they want for these sorts of guitars, you'd got to be crazy. Unless you just were die hard for the color, or you found one that was just a unicorn weight and you just had to have it, I think you'd be nuts not to take a Vintera 3 over it. Another thing worth keeping in mind is, if you buy a Vintera 3 new from Fender, if you don't love the thing, you can send it back. If you buy one of these things used from a reseller, or you import it from Japan, you ain't paying to ship that thing back. You're just going to resell the thing. And if you want to do it back to a reseller, odds are they're going to charge you shipping both ways. The shipping that they initially sent to you, and then the shipping back to them. And potentially, in some cases, I see in the fine print, for those of us who like to read these things, you're going to pay a restocking fee on top of that. And all because you're not positive. And I understand, again, it might seem like I'm heavily favoring this guitar, but it seems like a safer option. It's a more affordable option. It's an easier option to get. And we haven't even touched on the fact that these are so new, we haven't known what they're going to settle at on the used market. To me, I think that this is the better call. Personally, I love these guitars. I love Japanese Fenders. When I first set out to do this, this was not the conclusion I thought I was going to come to. You guys, I have done so many videos with the Japanese guitars. I loved them to death. I still love them to death. But in this instance, this is probably the smartest thing Fender have done in a long time, to bring the Jaguars back and to make them this good, because I think it's going to do a lot of healthy things for the market in general. And what's even more important is it gives people easier access to a proper vintage spec Fender Jaguar that's really high quality, albeit with a poly finish. Yeah, I read those comments too. Some people were expecting these Vintera 3s to be nitro finished, hard shell cases, and $1,100. I don't know what world you guys are living in, but hey man, to each their own. That's all I have to say today. Thank you for watching today's video. I know a lot of people requested this. I hope that you found value in it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel, or, at the very least, you can hit the like button for making it this far into the video. Questions, comments, or any other concerns, feel free to use the comment section, and I'll be seeing you on the next video. Take it easy, everybody.